Um, what's up, everyone? Thank you for attending week 2 of the SBVC/IA Career Awareness Program. Today, we're very, very honored and privileged to have the Transportation Learning Center as our presenters for today. But before we get into that, I'll just do a quick recap of last week's internship. First, WTS does have a professional development session tomorrow morning. I know it is quick notice, but from tomorrow from 9 to 11, it's all about finding your confidence in the workplace. We know that anxiety and shyness and overall lack of confidence is a very, very real issue. I've personally dealt with it in my professional career a lot as well. So, I've seen a little bit of what this presentation has to offer. So if you would like to register, feel free to email me or Mrs. Lisa Reese today. I know it says there's a $25 non-members registration fee, but SBVC students get that waived. So if you guys are interested in that, please let us know. And then we also have WTS's scholarships that are applicable for young women only. So if you are interested in that as well, that's also on the WTS website. And of course, just a friendly reminder, all of these sessions that you guys attend all go towards the IA community eligibility. So if you would like to be eligible to apply for this internship, you have to attend at least 5 sessions of this lecture series. So, if you went to last week's session and you're here right now, that you're already 40% done. So, keep it up. Shout out to you guys. And of course, if you guys attend 5 sessions, you will be eligible for an IA My Beloved Community goodie bag, which has plenty of video creating content valued around $100, $125. So, if you're interested in that, just feel free to continue coming into these sessions. But, like I said, I won't waste too much time. We have Sitlali here with us. She'll also be helping me present and moderate today's class because I have some things to be working on. But, I'm going to pass it over to Sitlali, and she will be introducing the Transportation Learning Center. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Isaiah. So today's session will be led by Transportation Learning Center and their awesome team, which includes amalgamated. I'm sorry, how do you say the first letter?
Amalgamated? Right.
Amalgamated. I even Googled this and pressed the sound button. Transit Union, the largest transit union in North America. The center just received the first time ever award from US DOT as a National Training Center for Workforce Development frontline workers. The Transportation Learning Center is a nonprofit organization dedicated to improving public transportation by committed investment at the national and local levels in frontline technical workers. So I'm now going to introduce Jack Clark, who currently serves as the Executive Director of the Transportation Learning Center, where he has worked there since 2002. Prior to becoming the Executive Director, in 2014, he served as Deputy Director and Director for Workforce Development. He also has worked with key stakeholders on recruitment and training strategies for career pathway programs to fill the vacancies created as transit workers move up career ladders. Jack has been a leader in developing new national training standards for transit frontline workforce. He has more than 30 years of senior level experience in workforce development and has a lifelong interest in policies to address problems of low wages, poverty, and inequality in the United States. So I will now be handing the stage off to Jack, who will introduce Jermaine and the rest of the team. So.
Okay, thanks very much, Sitlali, and welcome to the entire class. We're really excited to be part of this whole process. And I'll be working very closely with Jermaine Gibson, who's Workforce Development Coordinator for ATU International. He'll tell you more about himself, but he's an extraordinary leader who's done terrific work in San Jose, where he worked for many years as a bus driver and then as a leader of their workforce development programs on the union as the union lead in a very extensive workforce development program there that he helped create a lot of innovations and new developments in. He's currently working to develop programs all around the country. As a matter of fact, he's sitting in the airport in Indianapolis right now because he got stuck. So next slide. Okay, so we're talking about transportation. We're going to have a separate session on goods, but today our focus is on people. October 7th, Some of us will be back, and some of us won't be, but we'll be having a focus on the movement of goods, which is a very big deal in San Bernardino County, in the Inland Empire. But we want to focus on people today. Next slide. Public transportation. We want you to think a little bit about what you think government transportation, what public transportation is. We're defining it as a government-funded system that moves people from one place to another through a range of transportation modes: a bus line, light rail. Public transportation systems connect people, jobs, and communities. So people use it to commute, people use it to get medical appointments, people use it to get to school, people use it sometimes just to go out and enjoy themselves. Next slide. So I won't read this entire slide. You can probably read it faster than I can. But in the US as a whole, there are a lot of people taking trips on public transportation, 9.7 billion. More than nearly 500,000 people are employed in public transportation. 6,700 organizations participate in public transportation, and we're saving $6 billion in gas every time people in the total use of public transportation. What's not public transportation? Why don't you think about this for a second, and then we'll also get some answers. Okay, so let's let the slide animate. Okay, so all of those are not public transportation. Bikes usually, if anybody has questions on that, I mean, if bikes can be on the front of your bus, and I guess that makes it public transportation, but it's usually not. So all of those are ways to get around. So why transit, and exactly what is it? We've got a little video here.
What does mass transportation mean to me?
Connectivity.
Movement and accessibility.
It means ease of access for the city.
Being able to move when you want, where you want, how you want.
An opportunity for folks to experience their city.
It means freedom.
As a city, we really need a multifaceted approach to public transportation.
I'd love to walk out my door and not have to worry about how I'm getting to where I'm going.
We compete with Chicago and Boston and Denver and San Antonio.
A service is something that's just expected to be available.
We've got to deliver on what the next generation of talent wants.
It's not just about us, it's about our community.
A lot of people may not use mass transit, but people that save lives, frontline service providers, they rely on it.
We need dependable transportation for everyone.
We've got to continue to be progressive to attract the kind of talent we need to be successful.
Anytime we can bring people into Indianapolis, that's great for business.
Offering people free Wi-Fi.
Earlier start time, more frequent stops.
Shorter wait times, more routes.
Improved mass transit makes all the difference.
It allows us to be able to get to and from work.
We can go anywhere we want to go, any time of the day.
For doctors, for enjoyment.
I won't have to worry about all of the financial burdens that come with owning my own vehicle.
My car just broke down. I had to spend almost $1,000 just getting my car fixed. And if I could get rid of it, I would.
Everybody is on the bus.
Indianapolis has a history of making bold investments on infrastructure. Mass transit is no different.
Spending that money today will certainly bring money to the city tomorrow.
Keep us growing, keep us vibrant.
There's so much to do in the city. A bus will take you to these places.
It really puts us on the same level with the big boys.
We can't let the hard work of the last 4 decades be lost in vain.
We all have children, we all have families, we're all growing. Now is an opportunity for us to be together as a city as a whole.
Mass transit builds a stronger community.
Increased connectivity.
Upward mobility.
Getting to class on time.
Efficient and safe.
That's what mass transit means to me.
Eso es lo que significaría transporte rápido para mí.
That's what mass transit means to me.
Ça me dit ça, le transport public.
That's what mass transit means to us.
Okay, so as you saw, that was about Indianapolis and the Indigo system there. But we chose it because it's a pretty good representation of a lot of various voices in the community and why they think mass transit is important, even if they're not necessarily using it personally. Okay, we've got another slide coming up, right? This is,
What does mass transportation mean to me?
okay, we don't want to replay that. Okay.
I think the
Okay.
screen sharing access turned off.
Okay,
yeah,
so
back in.
I'm sorry, and I'm relying on Kurtz here. I probably should have taken this myself. Puts her in a bad position. But one of the things that got talked about in that video was that even if you're not using it, a lot of people in the community and people you rely on are using it. So the heroes moving heroes is something we heard a lot about in mass transit. And you see some examples here of bus drivers protecting themselves against the spread of COVID, and moving people who are nurses, moving people who are frontline workers. And we know a lot from what happened during the COVID epidemic that mass transit really was a lifeline for people in the in those essential jobs. Next slide. There's also, and this came across pretty strongly in that video also, mass transit is a human right. People need it, people demand it. You can see the sign there with somebody demanding transit justice. 11.7, this figure is, I think, from San Bernardino County, that 11.7% of households are without vehicles, which means they need a way to get around. And in some places, that number is a lot higher. In the big cities in the East Coast, or in places like Los Angeles or San Francisco, you'd see very significantly larger numbers of people without. And here you see the emissions. And I know this is a big issue for young people. It's a big issue for all of us because global warming is real. Planes, SUVs, small cars, motorcycles all use a lot more, produce a lot more emissions than a transit bus or a train. And motorcycles sort of close, but the next slide will show something different on that. This is the space required to move people if you're using a bus or if you're using cars. So you can move 48 people in one bus, or you can have the kind of traffic jam you're seeing down there. And electric cars and autonomous cars still take up that space. So you're still looking at big traffic jams, a lot of land use, a lot of problems, just a lot of difficulty getting from place to place without the efficiency of people moving in public transportation. Okay, so I think we initially had this set up. You're going to raise your hand or write in the chat box. We originally had this set up for people to respond online.
I don't think there is a chat box.
Oh, okay. So let me pose the question anyway, and we'll figure out how people can respond. And even if you're just responding to yourself, that could work. Do you use transit, or do you know anybody who uses transit? And if you do, and where do you or the people you know use transit to travel to and from? And that's not actually a discussion question because we've got no way to actually organize a discussion here, right?
Yeah, one of the students actually just messaged me and they said that they use the buses as a form of transportation to get to like school as well as like other restaurants. So
okay, good. That's good to know. So as we're talking about this is not a foreign subject. People are used to using the system. Okay, thanks. Let's keep moving. Okay, so one of the reasons we're talking about transit is also, besides a service, it's a source of jobs and of good jobs. And these numbers are approximations, but they are, and the data is old, but it's still relevant. Over a 10-year period, transit needs to recruit, train, and retain 126% of its current workforce. So in rough terms, that's 400,000 people today and 500,000 people over a 10-year period. That's a lot of jobs, and 90% of those jobs are for frontline workers, by which we mean the people who drive the buses or operate the trains, or who work in the systems to keep the equipment running, who are repairing the buses or keeping the light rail right away and signals and systems and whatnot going. Next slide. And you're not going to hear from all of these people today, obviously, but over the course of your study, the course of this of your IA course, you're going to hear from a lot of agencies and a lot of unions, and these are just a few of them. And if you've got questions, we can try to about who these people are. We can get to them later, but I think most of these logos will be at least somewhat familiar.
Also, if you get a copy of this presentation, all of the logos are linked to their website, so you can learn more.
Okay, great. Thanks, Rita. And this is another question. I don't know how much the discussion is going to work on this, but do you like working with people? Do you like working with your hands? Do you like working with electronics? Do you like working as a member of a team? Do you like solving problems? And how are we dealing with the people are answering that? Or
I wonder if in the classroom, if Omar is getting any folks raising their hands, or if Isaiah's gotten any messages. And
yeah, I asked out one message. One person said that they're kind of like an introvert. They don't really like working with other people. So I don't know how much help that is here, but you know.
Well, that means you don't want to work with people, and there are certain jobs you don't want with that. But a lot of introverts like working with their hands and solving problems.
Yeah, sure.
And when you're working as a technician, you are working by yourself. I mean, you're pretty much doing the job on your own.
Yeah. Okay, let's keep going here because the reasons we asked these questions. And G, I think you were going to address this, right?
Yes. So good afternoon, everyone. Jack, thank you. I really appreciate being part of the presentation. Hopefully you guys get as much out of this as I do every year, of being able to share our knowledge of the industry and the union and just the great jobs that are available in public transportation. Here's just a list of all the different career pathways that you can enter into as you move into public transit. You know, whether it's starting off as a bus operator or working your way up all the way to a general manager, or if you're fortunate enough to become a union president of a local. Next slide. So I think this is a video. I can't see exactly which one it is, but I think it is the one.
Gee, you should have in your notes the order if you want to refer to that.
I think it's the video that shows the maintenance department at Golden Gate.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
We have almost 200 buses here. To keep these buses properly maintained, it takes time. Every night when the bus gets fueled, they drive through the fuel island. There's a pit. There's a mechanic down in the pit inspecting those buses, checking out every system, oil leaks, brake systems, everything. There's regular service intervals where we do deep inspections, fluid changes. The key is to keep them safe and reliable. There used to be a saying here that we rebuild everything but light bulbs. We like to rebuild parts to control cost and control reliability and quality, just as good as factory, if not better.
So in the unit room, we do our own in-house rebuild from engine to transmission to differential.
Technology has advanced so much that there will be a check engine light on our bus. We hook a laptop into the bus and we scan for trouble codes, and then we diagnose that bus through a set of software and diagnostic procedures.
So the next video will be of New York MTA bus mechanics. And we just saw Golden Gate Bridge.
Working as a BMB, which is a bus maintainer. My responsibilities are basically maintaining the buses, changing filters, oil, electrical, undercarriage, hydraulic system, cooling system. My main pick is brake system. We're specialized in brakes. I think our job is the most critical because if the bus don't stop, people will get hurt.
When an individual comes to New York City Transit as a maintainer, there's different training that they receive. So they'll get training on the bus from the front to the rear, electrical, diagnostics, body work, depending on what their title is.
You have to be a person that cares about your job. You have to be accurate in what you do, especially in my field, where I said, you know, the brakes are very important. It's a safety issue. You check and you recheck, make sure that everything is done correct, and you make sure that your job is done very well. And I'm kind of a perfectionist too, so that helps.
I see our buses on the streets, picking up passengers, taking them where they need to go. Makes me feel proud knowing that they're in a safe bus.
Since I was young, I love mechanics. I never knew that this would have been my job.
And I think this is a great example of how public transit works together as a team. Caritza, thank you. I really appreciate it. I got locked out from my notes of explaining the videos and how you would hear from different maintenance technicians at different levels of them, you know, coming into the career. And again, I think, one of the things that this highlights is how much of a team effort goes into making public transit work. So
we have 2 more videos. The next one is of a woman who works at Metrolink as an engineer.
I love my job. It's so much fun.
Just 7 years ago, Samantha Thames was a self-described college dropout with no direction for her future. Today, she's a Metrolink engineer at the helm of a 600-pound train, earning a 6-figure salary and responsible for the lives of thousands of commuters every day.
It's nothing that I actually thought I would do in my life, but once I got here with Amtrak, I knew it's all I wanted to do.
Thames says she started at the bottom with Amtrak, working on-board services, cleaning bathrooms and making beds on sleeper coaches. A year later, she worked her way up to become a Metrolink conductor, and she hasn't looked back since.
I love taking the passengers to work every single day and taking them home safely.
Yeah, you know, that's actually kind of a wild thing that you brought up, that Metrolink video, because Metrolink is going to be next week's presenters as well. So, you know, that was cool transition between them.
That was one of the reasons we chose it. This one is a little bit farther from you guys. This is from Minneapolis. We're going to see bus mechanics at Metro Transit.
No, never thought I'd be a diesel mechanic.
I didn't even know most of the tools.
I couldn't even change my oil, so.
We move people into really good paying positions, and the community sees the benefit of that as these individuals are given the opportunity to grow and develop in their careers.
And these careers are something people can be in for 30, 40, 50 years. And for us, that is a real game changer. It reduces that instability that throws families off. Often they go through these cycles of kind of boom and bust. These are consistently good jobs with high wages and good benefits.
I used to live in my parents' basement. Now I have my own house. And I was able to do that because I have a good job at a good company and I have a good respected profession.
I love my job. I come here and I take pride in what I do, and I think that's all you can really ask for. I still can't believe I'm doing this.
Wow, I'm here. I made it. Like, I'm a mechanic.
Oh, there it is.
I don't know why.
No worries. Sorry. Again, you have to excuse the background noise. As Jack said, I got stuck here in Indianapolis waiting for my flight later on. But I think one of the things that we want to highlight in that video is when most people think about public transit, sometimes they only think about the operators. But there's a whole team that goes behind making public transit work and moving people from, you know, their communities into jobs that they work work at, or to services that they need. Here's a list of just several different fields in public transit, from bus operators to signal, technicians to paratransit. They're the ones that you will hear a lot about later on. Is also the career or the opportunities to be some of the, union officials that make public transit work. And so here's just one of the charts. Again, we're gonna, cover some of this for the union side in a second, of the career pathways that are possible in public transit, especially when you start talking about the union. As Jack mentioned earlier, the Amalgamated Transit Union is one of the largest transit union, or is the largest transit union in North America. We represent over 203,000 members. And in that representation, we have our own leadership that goes from, our union members, shop stewards, all the way up to local presidents and business agents. Next slide. Okay, so here's one of the things that we don't do well enough from the public transit industry is talk about the wages that you can earn, in public transit. If you take a look, the minimum wage there in California is $15. If you look at the entry-level wage for a service attendant at $28.76, you see a huge difference between an entry-level job for transit and the minimum wage. And if you get into some of the apprenticeship programs that ATU is starting to lead the nation in when it comes to transit apprenticeship programs, you can work your way all the way up to a high skill technician at $47.86. Again, this is something that I love about doing this presentation every year, is we get the chance to expose, to the youth what a great career you can have in public transit and some of the wages that you can earn as well. So again, this slide just goes over kind of showing there. I think the top wage in San Bernardino for a coach operator is $26.50. Again, this is just one of our entry-level jobs. It is one of our professional jobs, but it's just to get you into the door. And then if you take a look, this is a top wage for a transit mechanic over at LA Metro of $44. Again, these are all, all the different careers, all the different salary or money you can make in transit. But let's go a little deeper. Some people only just look at the money. Here in transit, you also have great healthcare. You have paid vacations. You have tuition reimbursement if you decide that you want to go, to a college and get a degree. Our pension plans are amazing. Free transit. My kids always love to jump on the bus for free. And again, the career advancement part that you will hear more about later on in the presentation. See, there's a hand up.
Oh, yeah. This is kind of funny. One of the students messaged me and they said they want to go into transportation now just for the free transit passes. So it's a good benefit. It's a good benefit. I gotta respect his desires. So
I'll tell you this, I'm a coach operator out of San Jose, but I do work at the International, and I'm here in Indianapolis, and I'm able to get on public transit because I am an ATU member and I am part of that public transit family. And so it's not just a free pass benefit in the area that you live in, but it's all over the country as well. This is a slide that can kind of demonstrate, some of the different wages and career pathways or career advancement in public transit. For the longest, coach operator has always kind of been that entry level to get you into the door of public transit. But once in there, there's a whole bunch of different opportunities that you can go on to advance not only your skills, but your wage as well. Like I said, if you just take a look at the slide, coach operator coming in at Metrolink, starts off at $26, maybe can work their way over to a communication coordinator between $30 and $36, and then work your way up to a train dispatcher, $47 to $56. So again, you can make a great wage in public transit. Next slide. So one of the things that we're also going to talk about is the opportunities to work with green technology as we transition over to zero emission bus, especially in California with a 2040 mandate, that by 2040, all public transit buses that are being purchased have to be zero emission. But currently we have everything from, hybrid buses, fully electric buses, natural gas. Diesel buses are a lot cleaner than what they used to be. We are also outfitting our, transit agencies with solar panels And then we're going to talk about a little bit about regenerative braking, later on as well. Next slide. So other technologies in public transit, there are a lot of different electrical jobs that are starting to come to transit. Years ago, you may have found maybe one computer jack or maybe none at all. Now, most of the transit buses that are running on public streets have anywhere from 17 different systems and on up in it on the bus. Electric diagnostic tools, fiber optics, global positioning systems, GPS, command and control centers. There's a lot of technology into going to making transit move. And I think we're going to have a video in a second that's going to kind of show you the behind the scenes of how we get transit to move, whether it's a bus or rail. Okay, so here are some here.
And by the way, G, you don't have to race. I got wrong on the time. You have a little over 5 minutes left, so you got way more than enough time. Sorry.
I'm a bus driver. I hit the gas if I think I'm behind schedule. So here was a slide that was going to kind of demonstrate some of these electrical jobs or electrician jobs that are going to require a different skill. You see bus operator on there. Again, as we move to the zero emission buses, it's going to require a different way of doing the job. Communications coordinators, train operators. These are just some of the different fields that are starting to advance with the technology. Oh, there it is. I was like, they highlighted the wrong ones, but I got them. All right, and here's a video to kind of talk about how transit moves and some of the technology.
After the video, we're going to break to something else. One thing I want to just jump in for a minute. We've talked a lot about teams and getting things done as a team. I neglected at the beginning of this to note that there's a full Transportation Learning Center team here. One person you'll meet in a few minutes is John Chavon, and he'll go over some things he's going to be doing. But Patricia Greenfield and Karitza Holzcomb have done an enormous amount of work to make this whole presentation work and to coordinate with Aya on this whole experience. And I just want to thank them, acknowledge them, and let you know you're hearing from them occasionally, but let you know that they are senior and very valued members of our team.
Customer help. 635, I'm going to put you on ice for just a minute and I'll call you right back in a few to activate the train order. The number one reason for delays is safety. If we cannot safely get a train through an area, regardless of the reason, we won't move trains.
We're dealing with police, fire, medical, trying to stay out of their way so they can do their jobs efficiently. So there's a lot going on all at once when they just think their bus is late or we're not thinking to fill that service, but we really are.
It's been pretty tough since 2017. The unprecedented amount of snow, ice, protests, rain. It's been a little bit tough for transit, and we really appreciate the public's patience. I know the operators really endeavor to try to get people where they need to go, and it's our responsibility to try to get vehicles out there to provide that service.
Great. Again, like I said, I know it may start over, but the video just kind of shows that behind the scenes. Like I said, most of the time, when you talk about public transit, most of the time people only see the operators, but there's a huge amount of technology that's behind the scenes that gets all this to work and connects us all, in the communities that we serve. Okay, so now we're going to get to the portion that I am a fan of. A little bias. It's going to kind of talk about the union's role and some of the careers from a union standpoint. When you talk about public transit, again, my name is Joanne Gibson. I am going to be joined by, President Barnes, who is the president at ATU Local 1704 there in San Bernardino, and also President Aguilar, who is the ATU Local president at 1277. I'm going to give them a chance to introduce themselves, tell us a little bit about their career in transit and how they got to the positions that they're in now. Guess I'll kick it off by kind of telling you a little bit about myself. Again, Jermaine Gibson, Workforce and Development Coordinator for the Amalgamated Transit Union International. I work out of Silver Springs, Maryland, and my job is to spread, mentor and apprenticeship programs for coach operators, bus mechanics, rail operators, you name it, across the US and Canada. I think what's so great about this is I am also, a product of these programs. Coming into transit in 2011 in, Santa Clara County, or VTA for short, I had no idea, what it was that I wanted to do. I had been laid off from the auto industry where I used to build Toyota Tacomas for 10 years. And so when I got into transit, I'm gonna be honest, the only thing I really wanted to do was drive the train. Didn't really want to drive the bus, but that was the entryway, but I wanted to drive the train. I know we got a lot of young people on here, so you guys may not know nothing about Star Trek, but I always wanted to be Captain Picard, and the train kind of gave me that gave me what I thought was going to make that happen. But what happened is coming into this program and being able to have a mentor and being able to, be part of the apprenticeship process. I have gone from being a coach operator in San Jose to now traveling all over the country, helping, other ATU locals and their transit agencies build programs that are going to create career pathways for people coming into public transit. I think that is so important when you talk about the future of public transit. We need to make sure that we have people who have the skills to not only operate the equipment for now, but the equipment of the future. And so with that being said, I want to give it over to President Barnes to allow for her to introduce herself and kind of tell you a little bit about her career pathway.
Thanks, Jermaine. My name is Joanne Barnes. I am the president of ATU Local 1704 here in San Bernardino. I started out as a bus driver. And I'm kind of like Jermaine, when I first started, I just want to drive the bus just one time, just let me get in there. And when I started with Omnitrans, I'm like, I'm just going to be there a year, drive the bus and done. Well, I ended up driving for 21 years and, being the bus driver, driving for 20 years, I got connected with the union. I've been with the union for 15 years, and I never would have imagined that I would be in the position that I'm in now as the president. And because I just want to do it and be done with it. But once you get into something and you feel that you have a love for that thing, you can stay with it and stick with it. It's a great career. Driving the bus it was just awesome. For you to stay at a job for 20 something years, you have to love that job. It's more than just receiving a paycheck. But I started with the union. When I got in the union, I was on the executive board. I moved up to the recording secretary. I was the recording secretary for 10 years. Then I ran for union president, which I won the position, and been the union president now for 2 years. But it's very, very interesting. You learn a lot. You have to have a love for people, want to help people, just helping people with the companies. And even before I got really involved with union, I used to say, the union is there to help the bad people. That is just so untrue, because the union do so much. If it wasn't for the union, we wouldn't have the raises we get. We wouldn't have the medical that we receive. We wouldn't get the pay raises. So the union do a lot. And it's really very important now that the younger people understand that the union is not there just to take your dues. We do a lot of background work, just like in the transit. When you see the people in the background, the ones you never see out front, that's the union. We're there working to help you, to make sure that your job is safe and that everything that's beneficial for you is there. So being a part of the union is just great. But like I said, I had to start with that bus, driving that bus. And I didn't think that was going to be for me, but it ended up working out. And look where I am now, the president of the union. So you can do it. It's there for you. Thank you, Jermaine.
Or yeah, if I could just say this real quick. Thank you for that, President Barnes. I think you said something really, really interesting that I feel like students would like to know about, because I was emailing some of the students earlier this week, and they were I was asking them, like, why do they care about this transportation infrastructure stuff, and they only told me like they're only in it for the bag. They heard it pays a lot of money. So but like the thing is, something I really like from like your stories that you said you had like a passion, like a newfound passion for like, something as simple as driving the bus. But, that ultimately goes back to like helping people and providing for people. So, I think that's like an important thing to take away from your story. Like, as well of a paying job as it is, like there's definitely like a passion / like a purpose or a calling behind what you're doing in the transportation industry. And so, yeah, thank you for that one.
Thank you.
All right, and now I'm going to introduce President Aguilar, ATU Local 1277 President.
Well, thank you, G, and good morning, good evening, good afternoon to all of you who are watching this presentation. First of all, I want to commend you because you're interested in listening and learning about transportation. So a little bit about myself is I'm going to date myself, so you're going to realize how old I am. Back in 1984, I graduated high school. The Olympics came to Los Angeles. MTA was hiring. Back then it was RTD. MTA was hiring. I didn't want to do it. My old man, my father was working for the company as a mechanic. Finally, he convinced me to apply for a job in '89. I hired in as a service attendant. A service attendant cleans the buses here at MTA. And coming in, I'll be honest with you, it is a dirty job. But the pay was good. The benefits were great or are great. And so it was worth sticking around. My longest job prior to that was no more than 2 years. And that was flipping burgers. Okay. So turned around, started going to school, learning about mechanics, got myself promoted, went to mechanics. And like I said, I hired in '89. My anniversary is next month. But things would happen at work, just like where you work at now. Things go on. You're like, hey, what the heck's going on? That isn't right. So what I did is I started reading our contract. Now, I'm going to show you the history, and I hope you can see it. The history of 1277. You see all these books? All these are going all the way back. This is 1979, all the way up to the present day contract. You see the thickness. Our union has fought hard to negotiate the wages, the benefits, your pension, your medical, how much time you get off, how your increase works, everything. You don't have to go do that with the boss. The union does that. So situations happen. I got myself in trouble, proposed trouble. I did my homework on the case. I found that the company had brought me up on the wrongful charges. So I won my first case with the help of my shop steward. And the members started coming to me, asking me, how'd you do this? How'd you do that? I'd show them in the contract. So got involved. I initially did not get involved with the union. When I realized my niche, the gift of gab, and doing the little homework and winning the cases, they had me run for shop steward, which is one of the lowest levels in the union. You represent the shop that you work out. Every union structured differently. Turned around and decided to run for executive board member. I won by 17 votes. You want to talk about a close election? 17 votes is the closest I ever want to get. Since then, in 2003 was the election. So January 1 of 2004, I hit the ground running as a executive board member at large for ATU 1277. After that, I ran for vice president, became vice president for 9 years. Now I'm in my second term, towards the end of my second term as president. 18 years as an officer, coming up on 32 years employed with LECMTA. So you can see the time that I've spent in the shop and the time I've spent as an officer. To me, it's a badge of honor that the membership has voted or has not put up anybody against me to run against for president, saying I'm doing a good job, saying our team's doing a good job. Transportation's an interesting career. The advantage is a lot of the agencies offer mentor programs, offer training programs for either if you want to be on the bus side as a mechanic or you want to go on the rail side as a maintenance worker or MOW, maintenance away personnel. There's many different avenues. I found my niche, being an officer, learning the contract, fighting. It's not a 9-to-5 job. It is my motto is 25/8, never too early, never too late. Because as G can tell you, as being in the international, or President Barnes can tell you, your phone goes off. My phone's on silent right now, but it goes off constantly. People calling you, wanting for you to help them. I always believe that if it's important to you, it's important to me. I'm also the chairman for the California Conference Board. There's 13 locals in the state of California, 13,000 men and women who move California, whether it be public, private, or paratransit transportation, whether it be a mechanic, a cleaner, a utility, or an operator. We have many different classifications. It is a great career for you to get into. If there's women, because I cannot see the audience, if there's women out there, I encourage you to get involved. We have some of the best female technicians, because we got them both on bus and rail, that run circles around some of these guys, that they're very intelligent. And I mean, we have some members that excel, that always are constantly going to training classes to better themselves, to better their future. Some move up to management, which I kind of don't like, but some stay in the rank and file and become trainers and represent the membership. My career, I've been fortunate, blessed to have what I have today. I can never regret if I lose an election. I go back to the shop, turn wrenches again. I think I'd be more of a headache for management at the shop, because they know I have time to sit there and fight with them, versus now representing 13,000 men and women in the state. My membership alone for 1277, combined with my retirees, is 4,100 members. 5 of my officers assist me. So just, that's a brief snippet of myself. I love what I do. I know President Barnes loves what she does. Yes, she's one of our freshman presidents in the state. During this pandemic, I think ATU became we've always been the leaders. I'm sorry, I'm a little biased, but ATU has been the forefront during this pandemic, getting the proper protection for our members, making sure they're getting the vaccines, making sure they're getting treated accordingly, fighting for hazard pay, fighting for many different things. And the one thing I will tell you, if you are serious about a career in transportation, whether it be being a train operator in Metrolink, whether it be a cleaner on the bus, whether it be a driver on the bus, whether it be a schedule checker, whatever it is, whatever you choose in your career, be proud of what you do. And to this day, when I wake up in the morning, it's a different day. You'll never have the same day, regardless which career you choose. You may think of it that way, but no, you don't, because you'll get different obstacles, different challenges as a mechanic or something. But as an officer, I will tell you, I do not regret becoming a union officer. I love the passion that we do. And I agree 100% with President Barnes, where she said, we're not only representing the ones who get in trouble. 80% of my problems are 20% of my members. The other 80% of our members are asking us to fight for their rights, to protect them, because they don't know how to do it. We have been trained by the best, I think, in the States. We have great leadership with International President Costa. On down, he has hit the ground running as he took over the International. But with having our contracts, the employers try to hurt you sometimes. They don't give you all this stuff. You don't get your vacation because they like you. They give it to you because the union fought hard to get it for you. The hardest thing you have to do as a union member is to make sure you make it to work on time and do your part to provide for public transportation. Thank you.
Thank you, Art. I think Pat gave us the time. I just wanted to say before, I don't know if we're doing Q&A. As you can see, you know,
I do have, but G, we do have time for some questions.
Okay.
And I think I saw Isaiah with his hand up, and there may be students, and I actually have some questions that have come from students at in different locations that I'll toss out if students there don't have questions.
Yeah,
But
I have some
Isaiah?
questions from the students. So this one is directed for Jermaine. Can you just explain what a workforce development coordinator is? more, yeah, and what you do.
So what I kind of do is we're working along with the transit agencies to look at the workforce needs that public transit is going to have. You know, right now we have a shortage of coach operators and mechanics in this country, or for all public transit agencies. And so what we're trying to do is develop programs to, one, attract people into public transit, and then two, have some type of training or mentor program that's going to help them succeed in their career. So I'm gonna be honest, I'm still learning. Workforce development is always evolving, but I'll say this, and this is just to show that you can do what you put your mind to if you got great support, especially from the union and the agency. I attended no college. All I have is a high school diploma. But what Art said was very true. I have a passion for whatever I'm assigned to do. You know, I'm going to tackle it full speed. And the opportunities that I have now came from being in public transportation.
Thank you. And then this is for our president. So can you give us an example of something recent that came up, like a problem that you guys had to tackle?
President Barnes?
I mean, wow. It's like, which one can I pick from? We just recently had accident where a driver got off the bus, lowered it. You know, the bus is not supposed to move if you lower the bus, but she turned the bus off. And she was outside of the coach and reached through her window and turned it off. When she turned it off, the bus rolled backwards. And so it was like, oh my God, watching the video was kind of like, oh my God. And we're actually fighting because the job, they kind of like want to terminate her because, you know, she didn't pull her brake or whatever. But the more serious part is that she could have got killed. You know, it was like, you got to think of, you have a long-term employee here that has never been in an accident, and you make one mistake, that's when the union going to come in and do everything we can to keep her on that job, because you make one mistake, you should not be out. So I don't know if I know Art have way more than I have.
I'll make this one, it happened this morning, I'll make it brief. So they're hiring new service attendants, and they're putting them in the divisions, and they're being trained or on probation for the first 120 days. And we have what they call our leaders, and the leaders give the assignments to the appropriate classifications. And this classification is service attendant. So the leader and relief leader were off work, their vacation day, sick, whatever, they're off. So the crew needs a leader for the day. And the crew passed it up by seniority. It goes by seniority. They asked the highest seniority person all the way down. They all passed it up. This is what the good part is. They all passed it up as a brotherhood to give it, or in sisterhood, to give it to the lowest seniority person, because that lowest seniority person is making 80% of the top rate of pay for the first 6 months. They passed it up so that person could go to top rate of pay plus $1 for the day. So they did the person a favor for pay. Management turns around and says, no, the person's on probation. We're not going to pay the person for the job. So when I called the superintendent, I asked the superintendent, show me in the contract where it says an employee who's on probation is not entitled to the differentials. He couldn't show it to me. So he says, give me 15 minutes, call me back. Person's getting paid, we'll take care of it. That's a good example right there. Quick and short and sweet.
Thank you. And then Pat, did you have some questions you wanted to ask?
Yeah, I had a few, and I don't want, if there are ones coming from students, I don't want to take up space. So do you have others, Lali? I don't want to.
Not as of now, but you can go ahead.
Okay, if anything comes in. So there are a few questions we get. One is, and you both presidents and G have talked about your careers, which have ended up, in unions, in, leadership and advocacy and mentoring positions. I know that, there are folks who have taken, as President Aguilar said, other choices on how they move up the career ladder. And one of the things that struck us when we've looked at transit is there are so many different ways people can move up, so many different choices. We know a bus operator we worked with for years who's now running the entire scheduling operation for the city of Austin, Texas, right? We know someone who started as a mechanic who then moved into union trainer and then into, other training and mentoring, leading a home mentoring program. So I wonder if you could say a little about, and G, I'm sure you have national examples, the different ways people can move within transit systems and actually across transit systems, because it's a national industry if you ever have to move somewhere else.
Yeah, sure. I guess I can get that piece off. And I think this goes to the question of what is workforce development. We are currently now trying to create those different pathways to move people, through the different classifications, at a particular transit agency. But I'm glad you opened it up the way that you did, Pat, because here I sit in Indianapolis with a general manager who started off as a customer service rep and went from a customer service rep to a coach operator for a little bit before start, moving her career, through public transit on, on the agency side. And now she's a GM, of a public transit agency. And she started off in the customer service center. So what we're trying to do is make those pathways that's always been in transit a little more clear and a lot more accessible to, everyone. We definitely, I think Art said it a second ago, we're definitely trying to make it as diverse as possible. Our industry needs a lot more diversity and especially a lot more women coming into it. And we want to make sure as we bring people in, we can connect them, through the different pathways that all lead to success.
Thanks, G. Yeah, Art.
I was just going to say, the pathways are there. I have 5 different contracts I represent directly as the president, not as the chair for the conference board. But there are 54 different classifications just in one of my contracts, from a cabinet maker to a machinist to all maintenance at the MTA contract. But I have seen men and women hire in as a service attendant, which is the lowest classification we represent. But they've taken advantage of the tuition reimbursement program here at LACMTA and have gone to school and have gotten themselves moved up to different classifications. Some have even left and as far as rank and file and gone into management, where I've become superintendents, where I've become the COOs for the company. So it all depends on how much time you put in to what you want to do. If you want to sit around, play video games, then you're going to stay where you're at in the position that you're in at MTA. But if you want to crack that book and try to balance your life of not too much study, a little bit of play, but I still want to promote, it's there. You write your own ticket. I've seen a lot of my brothers and sisters from the union, not from my family, from the union, have moved up. And we call ourselves a family. You look at my background, is remember the fallen. During the pandemic, we've lost 162 brothers and sisters to the pandemic. It's a heartfelt loss for all of us, regardless if it's Joanne's local, my local, or any other local. So, but it's what you put in is what you'll get out on anything you decide to do.
Thank you, and I'm sorry, my power cut off again. Speaking of infrastructure, just one other question, then I'll leave it. We still have a few minutes, but another question people ask, you have folks sitting out there, young people, community members. if I'm interested in becoming a bus operator, I'm interested in becoming a mechanic. Right now, let's say I'm still in high school or I'm in community college. How do I sort of prepare myself, or what do I do to think about accessing these jobs, and what should I know in terms of, you know, characteristics I would need, background I would need, what would be helpful for me to know that you wish, you know, that was helpful for you all to know, or you wish you knew?
Well, the one thing I will say is, for me, I'm a G. I did go to college, junior college. I never graduated. I did take advantage of the tuition reimbursement program and got my labor studies certificate. Never graduated there either. However, the classes that I did take at the junior college were basic automotive, were transmission classes. If you are dead serious of going in as a mechanic, or as a bus mechanic, a train mechanic, then look for a trade school. If you're dead set, that's your goal right there. Look for a trade school. Take advantage of the trade school program and get the education. Now, the downside of it is they look for experience as well. So a lot of the classifications will look for a minimum of 2 years experience. The difference is when you hire into MTA and you want to promote within, we tried to get management to waive that 2 years experience because you're already an employee. It would not make sense for an employee to quit, go get the 2 years experience, and then come back. They're not going to do it. So, for example, our OJT program, on the job training for mechanics, it goes by seniority. You got to have good attendance, and they will train you for 18 months. They will work with you to become a mechanic. We have it on the rail side as well. So if you're interested in definitely beginning into mechanics, regardless of which one it is, look at a trade school, take advantage of it. If you just want to get hired in and get hired into the agency as an operator or as a cleaner, a service attendant, you can do that as well. You get in, you get the tuition reimbursement. MTA loves to promote from within. As long as you go to school, get the minimum grade of C, because not all of us are smart. I'm a CD student, so I know that a little bit of time and effort, you can do it. But trade school is the best option right there.
I would like to throw out, if you're in high school and you're thinking about it, look and see what ATU local is in the city or that represents the transit system that may be in your area. Reach out to us, ask questions. The people that can tell you about how the job really is going to be are the people that are actually out there doing the work. Me, this is a true story. Somehow, I've always wanted to be a coach operator. Grew up in a small town in Louisiana, and my uncle was the bus driver, and I was the first kid on and the last kid off. And I took a long way around of getting back to it. But, the best thing you can do is, if this is something that you want to pursue, or you're still in high school, or you're going to graduate high school and you haven't figured out what it is that you want to do, reach out and talk to us. And that way we can connect you, whether it's you want to be an operator, you want to operate trains, you want to be a mechanic, and we can help guide your career even before you get into the career.
Oh, Pat,
I just want to push back slightly on something President Aguilar said, because I understand what you mean about not smart, because you're talking about maybe book smart or grade smart or classroom smart. But, those of us at the International Transportation Learning Center and those of us who've been in transit have worked with folks like you for, decades now. And I mean, I think everyone can tell from hearing you, this is a group of some of the smartest people you can imagine. It's just, there's different types of smart where people want to aim their intelligence in different areas. I mean, you can't, President Barnes would know this, you got to have incredible emotional intelligence to be a good bus driver. If you don't have the smarts in terms of dealing with people, you cannot do that job. You have to be, hardworking, motivated, really smart and really focused with technical issues, with understanding how to look at instructions and make things work and troubleshoot and problem solve, as a technician. I mean, these are jobs for really smart people, you know, in a range of ways. And one of the great things about transit is there are so many opportunities.
Pat, can I throw one more in there before we finish? And I'll say this, you know, as well. Transit is for you, and I think the piece that we sometimes miss is we, you know, in transit are some of the people that connect to the communities that we serve. A lot of us come from the communities that we now operate in, and so I know, being, you know, an operator, the influence you can have on that community. It can be in a positive way or in a negative way. And I think that, you know, this speaks to what you said about customer service. Me, when I operated the bus, you know, if we have anybody on here that used to get on the bus and if they didn't have the correct fare, they didn't know if they were going to ride that day or if the operator was going to make them get off. I always put myself, someone told me this a long time ago, whenever you work for someone, you're always one paycheck away from being broke. And so I've always put myself in that position to where if someone is getting on, whether it's I'm saying, you know, kind words to them or giving them advice about, you know, what it is that I do, or maybe it's as simple as, you know, allowing for them to ride the bus. I always put myself in that position to think that maybe I'm doing a job that's taking them from something that's negative to a positive. You never know when you're transporting someone to their first job interview or transporting someone to the hospital to deliver a child, or transport, you know, your grandparents or someone's grandparents that have to go to the store. So public transit, if you have that will and that desire that you want to give back to the community that you come from, this is that direct way of being able to do it.
I agree with G. I started riding the bus when I was 12 years old. At 4:30 in the morning, getting on the bus to be at school by 8 a.m. And the nicest operator, you got some operators maybe having a bad day, but the nicest people, professional and courtesy. It takes a special person to be an operator, because you're right. They have to be able to control their driving conditions, think about what's coming up. You know, they trained us because we have to have Class A licenses as well. Operators need Class B licenses, but to look ahead of potential dangers, dealing with a full load of bus passengers, especially when it's raining. You got people they're thinking about themselves, and this person is thinking about getting you to your destination on time and as safe as possible. It does take a special person to drive that bus, not just anybody. I will admit, they would have fired me as an operator because I wouldn't have the patience. Oh, I'm serious.
That's it.
So
we have, I think we have a
I think
break.
it's time for the break now.
Yeah, until 7:20. That makes sense? No, I'm on
No.
East Coast. 4:20. That would be a very long break. Do I have the time right? Until 4:20.
Yes,
Pick up
until
again at 4:20.
Yes.
And you'll hear about electrification and another exciting area of technical work.
All right.
Well,
Thank you, everyone.
Pat, can I just say thank you? I want to say thank you to the International Transportation Learning Center for having us. I want to thank both President Barnes and President Aguilar for taking time out of your busy schedule. And like President Aguilar said, thank you for taking an interest in public transportation.
This is Jack Clark again, and I'm not presenting here, but I just want to introduce the subject matter experts who are presenting. John Chavon, who is a colleague of mine, and I've had the great pleasure of working with him for many years now, is program director at the International Transportation Learning Center. He is proudly a mechanic by trade. He is also somebody who's thought deeply and long and hard about how mechanics need to improve their skills and how you fit things in with new technology. He's been citing the need for improved electronics training for quite a few years now, and is really at the forefront in terms of thinking through how to address these issues. We're also joined by Obed Mejia, who's a senior bus maintenance instructor at LA Metro. Obed, besides being a very good trainer locally at LA Metro, is really recognized nationally in the industry as an innovator, as somebody who's really thinking through how you meet the challenges of tomorrow and I start working on that today. So let me turn it over to John, who will start, and he and Obed will share the presentation.
Thanks, Jack, and hello all. Thanks for attending. We're here to discuss the benefits of becoming an electrical/electronic technician. As Jack said, I started my career as a mechanic. I'm proud to say that. And I started out as an apprentice, and I firmly believe in apprenticeship. I progressed my way through many positions since then, but I still enjoy working as a mechanic today as a hobby. I think it's a very rewarding occupation. One nice thing I like about it is you get instant gratification. There's something that doesn't work. You apply your skills, you apply tools, you serve as a detective of sorts, and you make the repair. And then it works. And when it does, it's very satisfying. And you don't really need anyone to tell you that, hey, you did a good job, because you know you did a good job because you made it work. But before we start, let's just clarify two sets of definitions. We talk about mechanic and technician. You'll hear those terms used interchangeably. There's no real formal definition, but a technician is someone who has a higher level of skill and knowledge. Certainly someone who has electrical/electronic skills is qualified as a technician. We also talk about electrical and electronic, sometimes interchangeably. You think about the electrical system, think about your home, and that's the network that provides electricity to your outlets. And electronics are the solid state devices like your computer and TV that are powered by that electrical system. Electronics play an important role in all of our lives, and transit buses are really no different. And there are many exciting electronic bus applications going on right now, and we'll share some of those with you today. And all of them are designed to make life easier, both for the passenger and for the transit agency. When we talked about electronics, it just started out with just very basic alternator diodes and fluorescent lighting. That was the extent of electrical equipment on buses. And then it grew. Electronic destination signs, there are fare boxes that collect money electronically. The braking systems have electronics in them, communication systems, wheelchair lifts and radios, hub odometers that record mileage, stop request systems, GPS-based systems that locate the bus and let passengers know when the bus will arrive, camera surveillance systems, fan system. You can see there's just so many different electronic applications now. The door systems are controlled that way. Automatic passenger counters that keep track of when people get on, when they get off, so routes could be adjusted accordingly. The transmissions are controlled electronically. There's Wi-Fi now on buses and USB ports, infotainment monitors. Even the mirrors are electronically controlled. There's fire suppression systems and pedestrian warning systems, and hybrid electric and battery electric systems that use regenerative braking. So you can see many, many systems. In addition to the basic electronics, we have buses now that are powered by batteries. So we call them battery electric buses, or BEBs, and technicians are greatly needed to repair those buses. Also, many states, such as California being one, being a leader, many others, though, are going to actually phase out gasoline and diesel powered cars, buses, and trucks. And it's going to increase the demand for technicians. There's a conceptual drawing or illustration of battery electric buses being charged in part by overhead solar panels that could help charge the batteries of these buses. So I'll turn over to Obed now and ask him, putting the battery electric buses aside, how have the electronic systems in today's buses, how have they helped, let's say, transit generally and maintenance specifically?
Hello, everyone. Yeah, the inclusion and evolution of electronic systems, mainly computer management systems, have had a wide impact on both the passengers as well as maintenance personnel. I think we saw a video clip earlier, and it showed technicians using a laptop to diagnose issues with bus systems. And we've been doing that for, well over 10 years now. It's just that the softwares and the controllers get more advanced. So maintaining the vehicles has become easier in the sense that you have diagnostic equipment that helps you do that, but it also requires a higher level of training and technical abilities from the mechanics or technicians. A lot of the softwares now that the technicians are using are bidirectional, which means that they, are able to update system controllers, calibrate, reprogram controllers. Buses also now have, as you mentioned in your previous slide, they have a lot of telematics, which support an array of functions, GPS systems, real-time monitoring of the health of the components that a mechanic, for example, in the shop can view on a desktop what the bus is doing and how the bus is acting as it goes down the road. And then for passengers, that we now have Wi-Fi on almost every bus in our fleet here at LA Metro, and that applies to the nationally also. We have very sophisticated video surveillance equipment for the security of passengers, and also collision avoidance systems that, create a safety barrier between the bus and the public, and also between the passengers and any potential danger out there on the road.
Thanks, so, and it's safe to say then the laptop computer plays a big role in a technician's toolbox.
It is part of the technician's toolbox now.
Yeah. How about on battery electric buses? How has that, and you think will battery electric buses improve transit?
Well, aside from the reduction in our environmental impact, our negative environmental impact, I think it's a lot less environmental noise, but also from the technician standpoint, I think it will create a higher technical expectation, but it's also a cleaner environment to work in as far as the electric bus goes.
Yeah, no more oil changes and lubrications and things like that. Yeah,
there'll still be a little bit of that, but not to the extent that we had before.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Right. Thanks for that. So we talked about the shortage of technicians in general. If there's a shortage of just say mechanics, there's a greater shortage of electronics technicians out there today. They're very difficult to find. It's really an understatement, and that provides a great opportunity for you because of that shortage. Transit agencies are willing to pay a premium for these skills. When wages increase when limited workers have specialized skills. So, if you want to flip hamburgers at McDonald's, there are many people who can do that. If you want to apply yourself, become a electronics technician, you're going to command a bigger wage. So, Ben, why don't you describe some of the real life difficulties in finding electronics technicians, and what are the wages and benefits that you pay them at Metro?
There is a shortage, as you stated, of in the industry as a whole, and over the next few years, as a lot of our current workforce comes into retirement age, is going to create a big gap, and we're going to need to fill all those technical positions. And as you mentioned, that gives potential employees an opportunity, because there will be a need for them to fill a job, but there also going to be an increase in pay. A lot of companies offer incentives, to hire people. Wages vary by location, but at least here in the Southern California area, what we have and what is typical at LA Metro is a starting pay for an electronic technician, a bus technician. It's somewhere in the $50,000 range, but it goes all the way up to almost $100,000. And then, as you can promote to different positions that are well into the six figures, such as supervisor, trainer, leader, mentor, those kind of positions. And as you saw in previous slides, most of these jobs include great medical benefits and great time off and 401s and a retirement plan. So there is a lot of opportunity there for people that want to take advantage of that.
Yeah, certainly that's an impressive pay scale. So one benefit about working for transit, I mean, they're willing to train you at no cost. I mean, yes, it's a challenging electronics and electrical systems. It is challenging and difficult subject to learn. That's for sure. You know, when it comes to basic mechanical skills, like say an oil leak, for example, you could see the oil leak, you could see where it's coming from, and you could deduce that a gasket needs to be replaced. But you can't see electrons moving through the wires. It takes a real commitment to learn these skills. But if you take the time and effort while you're young, those skills remain with you during your entire career. And so does the increased wages and opportunities that go with it. So while you're young, it's a perfect time to take advantage of that and take advantage of the learning. Because you go to a private technical school and they charge you pretty good money to get trained, but transit will pay you to learn. So you learn while you're getting paid.
John?
Yes.
So how can so I have a question from one of the students. How can they get involved in like this kind of career? Like how can they like step their foot in, and is there like a program or something?
Well, if they just apply, just show up at a transit agency and say that they have an interest. We have many transit agencies that have apprenticeship programs. So even if you don't have a great deal of skills, but let's say you have the aptitude, many of them will test you to see if you do have that aptitude. But if you at least have the aptitude, their transit agencies are more than willing to hire you, because I would say just about every single transit agency in this country is short technicians. They are short their budgeted amount of technicians. So they're looking for people.
John, related to that, because I think it is connected, are there courses, some of these folks are in high school or they're community college, are there courses they should maybe take to put themselves in a good position and be prepared, if they're applying for a job?
Sure. Any technical, any mechanical courses that are offered, and especially any electrical courses, electronics courses that are offered, those are good background courses to take. And many technical schools, offer a whole track. And being an automotive. Automotive is a general term used. There's also a heavy duty side that applies to trucks and buses. But any school, community college, technical school that offers an automotive or heavy duty program.
Thank you.
Yeah. Obed, why don't you talk about some of the electronic training programs you have going on at Metro?
Yes. So here at Metro, we have, we provide training for both our current workforce and also, of course, for new employees. And that training includes, an array of different topics, and a lot of them have to do with, as you purchase new vehicles, there's a lot of training that comes with that, and also refresher training to keep them updated on some of the older systems. But we also do a lot of promotional training, and this is, a collaboration between management and the union. So, for example, we have, as you heard before, apprenticeship programs. Currently at LA Metro, we have an apprenticeship program where we take a service attendant or a laborer, and they become part of a program that is 18 months long. At the end of the 18 months, they're promoted into a mechanic C at 100% pay, which right now is, I think, about $41 an hour, something like that, right? And part of their training throughout the 18 months is also paid. And then we have other opportunities with, on our rail side with the signals, with the traction power, the different classifications that they have on the rail side that also take the lower classifications, puts them through training, and at the end of the training, they promote to a full pay position.
Okay, thanks for that. And now we also have advanced training, to make learning easier. As I said earlier, electronics, it is a difficult subject to learn. There's no question about it. But the advanced training techniques really make it easier. The old way was to sit students in class for hours and just lecture and lecture and lecture and try to stay awake. But the new approaches is spend more time with hands-on training. Learn by doing is certainly more engaging. So actually get on the shop floor early and start practicing these different tasks. And also changes to the classroom learning have really taken place and come a long way. Techniques like gaming, virtual reality, other techniques really make it easier to learn these complex subjects like electronics, and especially for younger audiences like yourselves. I mean, you're accustomed to this technology. You're not accustomed to sitting down and listening to lecture. And I have a very basic example here, but I know Obed has some more interesting presentation to make about some of the advanced learning techniques. So Obed, you want to display those?
Yeah, sure. So as things have changed, in our society, we are trying to adapt our training as much as possible to meet the challenge of training, the younger generation, such as the people here in the audience that have grown up with smart technologies. Back in the old days, you would have to get up from your bed to turn off the anything in the house. Now you can just send a signal through the phone, right? So we are trying to adapt to teaching a person that is a first-person gamer, how to learn and to make it as easy as possible for them. And so we are doing a lot of computer training development. We're doing a lot of animations. I'll give you a brief example right now of what we're trying to do. This particular development here is something that we're doing. And first is presented to the student in a 3D format. And then the second step to this would be for that same student to go into an AR environment and do the same function. And then, of course, the third step would be for them to completely do it, hands-on on the vehicle. But when it comes to safety, you want to, have as much introduction to it as possible. We also do a lot of interaction with some of these components. This particular scenario here is of a bus door system. Right, so the student can learn how the door operates, what the different scenarios are by, interacting with a computer-based training program. So, I am not with a computer-based training program, right? So we're trying to get involved as much as possible with all the CBT training. We have complete interactions in courses where we take a student through a whole list of scenarios of what is normal operation, and then they can also go through scenarios where there's faults in the system, right? And it shows them the whole step-by-step sequence. This is more geared towards the current student, where, like I said, they're first-person gamers. They've grown up with smart technologies. The smartphone is their best friend. So unlike us, that we learn with the PowerPoint presentation, right?
Oh, that's a big step, and I think in training in general, because I could tell you as a former mechanic sitting through some of those lectures, yeah, they were dreadful. It was sort of in one ear, out the other. But now you make it dynamic, and that really does help out. So that's our formal presentation. Let's open it up to any questions out there.
Awesome. First, I just want to say, I never really thought about how like the doors open on the bus. I just thought it was like a simple like pull, because I take the CTA bus to school every day. So I never really thought about how it opens, and I just thought that's really cool, and I really like the hands-on learning. And then yeah, I just want to ask, how can the students get involved in transportation careers? I know you talked about apprenticeship programs, but is there anything else that's offered through like LA Metro or the Transportation Learning Center, like programs that these students can look up and learn more about, and we can share them as well?
Well, Obed did talk about the apprenticeship program, and somebody can get a job as a laborer or bus servicer, which doesn't require a lot of previous skill to do, and then bid into this apprenticeship program where 18 months later, after a lot of training, you're making $41 an hour.
Yeah, again, I would be very surprised if you didn't show up, if wherever you live, if you find out where your local transit agency is, and call them up or knock on the door and say you have an interest, and fill out an application. Again, there's such a shortage out there. I don't think it would be very difficult. If you have the ambition to do it and the will to do it, I think you could easily make it happen.
I think there's several different scenarios here, right? But one of the scenarios is obviously, apply for a position that is open out there, on a weekly basis. Check your local job listing or career openings on the transit property website. LA Metro hires. Pre-COVID, we were hiring about between the different technicians about 120 technicians a year. That includes, electronic communication technicians, bus mechanics, the different classifications, and about 65 to 75 service attendants. So that's a big amount of people, and that's not going to change. That's going to continue. But I think also, and we'll probably forward some information on this. We have a transportation academy that's starting up by LA Metro, and that would be a good avenue for your high schoolers to funnel into to develop their transportation careers in the future.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm so glad Obed mentioned that, because I was going to actually ask for any links and materials that we can then, forward and send over to Citlali, and you can make them available. One of the things, and maybe we should, we're coming sort of early-ish in your program, but as I understand it, you're going to hear from a lot of the different agencies, right, that actually do the direct hiring. What the Transportation Learning Center does is give you overviews and introduce you to these careers as opportunities. So one of the things is to take what you've heard today and use it to ask the questions of the folks who come from different agencies to talk to you. So that's one thing to think about, to follow up. And so if jobs that we've talked about seem interesting to you, when folks from the different agencies come, ask them how they access it. The other thing that Obed said is, and John said, take a look. You can go to the agencies, also look at their websites, look at their careers section, look at the job listings. And the last thing, and this was a really important thing Obed said, and I think President Barnes and Aguilar also referred to it, these are really mobile jobs. If you get your foot in the door at a public transportation agency, at a transit agency, at virtually any level in any job, there are tremendous opportunities to move. These agencies like to hire from within. They like to promote from within. They like to give opportunities for people to move laterally, sideways into different careers. So getting in the door, maybe not in your perfect job initially, but in a job that gives you access to other jobs is also something to consider.
Yeah. One benefit of transit that we really didn't mention is that it's not competitive. So all the different transit agencies and all the years I've been in this industry are more than willing to help each other out. So when we come to training materials, let's say, they're all willing to share their training materials across many different to other agencies. So it really does create sort of a family atmosphere, because LA, for example, isn't competing with Houston for writers. So it's just captive to that area. So that's another benefit of being in transit. Any other questions out there about the being an electrical electronic technician or being a technician in general? Working conditions or that sorts of things?
Let's see. So
It was,
sorry.
yeah, Art mentioned it's a dirty job. It's not so much today. I mean, back then we didn't wear things like gloves. Now technicians, mechanics wear gloves and personal protective equipment. So it's not the environment that it was at one time. And as Obed mentioned, going to electric propulsion, we get away from, changing oil, let's say in a diesel engine. That's 21 quarts of oil every month that had to be drained out of a bus. So that goes away, and there's no daily fueling of diesel fuel, 100 gallons in each.
What if we could use the most abundant element in the universe as a fuel source? And what if, instead of emitting greenhouse gases, transit buses produce clean water vapor? This isn't a far-off promise or a research project in progress. It's hydrogen fuel cell technology. In 1993, New Flyer and its technology partners unveiled the world's first hydrogen fuel cell electric bus. And we've been pioneering the technology ever since. It's safe, reliable, and it's making public transportation cleaner. Right now, hydrogen fuel cell electric buses, like our Excelsior Charge H2, are in motion across North America, and they're complementing existing fleets of battery electric buses. But why invest in hydrogen? What makes a hydrogen fuel cell electric bus different from a battery electric bus? To answer that, let's take a closer look at how it all fits together. A hydrogen fuel cell takes compressed hydrogen from the fuel tank and combines it with oxygen from the air. This process produces electricity, heat, and H2O, which leaves the tailpipe in the form of clean water vapor. The fuel cell functions as an onboard charger, providing power to charge the batteries while the bus is in motion. This eliminates the need to recharge the batteries at the depot or garage, and it extends the range of the bus up to 350 miles before needing to refuel. And refueling hydrogen is a breeze. It takes as little as 12 minutes to refill a 60-foot fuel cell bus, and only half that time for a 40-foot bus. Hydrogen is also incredibly clean and can help you further reduce your carbon footprint. Just one bus can save hundreds of tons of greenhouse gases every year. That's like taking up to 29 cars off the road or planting up to 5,600 trees. It's time to take advantage of this zero-emission solution. Discover how New Flyer can help you achieve a more efficient future with the Excelsior Charge H2. Visit the vehicle.
So pretty cool stuff, huh?
Yeah, that's the next generation bus for sure. After, battery electric buses are popular now, but once they perfect hydrogen electric, you still need a battery, but you don't need that outside charging source to charge the batteries. The batteries are being charged on board the bus.